I'm feeling delighted, relieved, and thankful to God.
Shocked, disbelief, and then confusion about our court system.
Don't touch my sign.
An innocent man was jailed for the crimes of his church.
After more than a year behind bars, today the nation's most senior Catholic clergyman was set free. Cardinal George Pell was released from Victoria's Barwon prison after the full bench of the High Court quashed his convictions on 5 counts of historical child sex abuse.
They didn't say that he was innocent, though they did say that there was a significant possibility that he's innocent.
It's the end of a complex 3-year legal battle. George Pell was convicted by a jury in December 2018 after the court heard evidence from a former choir boy. But other witnesses present at St Patrick's Cathedral in 1996 gave evidence which raised doubts about Cardinal Pell's opportunity to have committed the crimes he was accused of.
What they said is that when you look to all the details of this case, there has to be a reasonable doubt. And that's really what the High Court's judgment was about.
The High Court's decision was unanimous, finding that the jury ought to have entertained a doubt as to the applicant's guilt with respect to each of the offences for which he was convicted.
There was no way you could carry on with that pornographic pantomime that was presented in court. No way.
Bishop Peter Elliott studied with George Pell at Oxford and describes himself as one of the Cardinal's oldest friends.
It raises massive questions about the system in this state of Victoria where this has been able to happen. And reached the point where the whole principles of British criminal law were compromised, and that is now resolved.
The Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews said he had no comment on the High Court's decision. After a life spent in the priesthood and service as an archbishop and cardinal, George Pell had ascended to the inner sanctum of the Vatican, reporting directly to Pope Francis. But after Victorian police flew to Rome to interview him, he was charged in June 2017 with historical child sex offences. The allegations included the sexual abuse of 2 choir boys in the 1990s, while he was serving as Archbishop of Melbourne.
Victoria Police have charged Cardinal George Pell with historical sexual assault offences.
George Pell always maintained his innocence and appealed against his convictions, but the appeal was upheld by a majority of 2 judges to 1.
There is a God!
They said that the Court of Appeal made some errors on the facts.
Professor Jeremy Gans from Melbourne Law School says the case raises fundamental questions about how the system dealt with the allegations.
You could argue that something's gone wrong here. You could argue that the prosecution should have realised the problems the High Court found several years ago, or that the jury should have realised it, or that the Court of Appeal should have realised last year.
He's been found guilty in 2 court systems, and then a 3rd court system turns around and says, well, didn't say he was innocent, but said he can go home.
We just wonder if the Pope actually backs the comments that George made last night.
Phil Nagel was abused by another priest in Ballarat when he was 9 years old. He travelled to Rome back in 2016 to witness the Cardinal giving evidence to the Royal Commission. He says there are still questions about what George Pell knew about the abuse of children by other priests.
The Royal Commission should unredact what they have in their report, particularly in regards to Cardinal Pell, because they were deciding what he did or did not know. The courts were deciding what he did or did not do.
George Pell issued a statement today saying he holds no ill will toward his accuser and doesn't want his acquittal to add to the hurt and bitterness so many feel. Bishop Elliott says he feels some sympathy for George Pell's alleged victims.
A little. It's a very difficult question that I don't look into their hearts. I can't look into their hearts. Only God can.
I really feel for the victims.
Phil Nagel worries about the message this decision sends to survivors of church sex abuse.
The disappointing thing is that if victims come forward, this is not setting a good example for them, because you may not get justice. You may go through all this court process and still not get justice.
George Pell turns 80 next year, and despite his acquittal, it's unclear whether he'll return to a senior role in the church.
He will feel at last the great burden is lifted. That's what I believe he's going through, a burden lifted. I just hope people get on with it, get on with life, get on with the life of the state, the church and their families.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.